Welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking about some of the information that came from the dev panel over at Sea of Thieves Fest. We've also got a hotfix that came in and some drama over at the Sea of Thieves Fest towards the end of the last day. All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. But before I get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They're the ones that went over to patreon.com and have been supporting all the way up until the very end here. And as a result, I wanted to make sure that they know that I appreciate them. And I'm going to be calling out everyone's name that was last time I did an update, which is a while ago now at this point. But I am going to be shutting down the Patreon after the last episode. And as such, I want to make sure that I still get those call outs for you all to let you know how much I appreciate the support. So thanks to A-Chick, L-Cute, Captain Nooch, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Crazy Frog, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Godhammer 6, Jeff H, Carl Embo of Embo Family Gaming, Elvin Vramir, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Oars, Xbox Mike 29, Rabid Raccoon, Blue Crab, Real Big Tuna, Reap's Revenge, Ribloid, Rust Belt Kid, Scamelt 666, Tales of the Sea, The Demon Jester, Tommy D, TN Professor, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Hager Owl, Captain Duckweed, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, and Zam. Wow. Thank you all so much for your love, for your support. It really did make the difference in doing this podcast. So I appreciate you guys so much. And I hope you all are having a fantastic rest of your week. With that, pirates, let's get into it. First on today's docket, let's talk about the latest patch notes that came in with a hotfix. I'm actually pretty surprised that Rare has been doing more and more hotfixes. This is not something that they've typically done. They've usually tried to resolve things by trying to keep them to the next update if it's something that's kind of issues. But I have actually appreciated the fact that they are looking to try and actually get some of these a little bit quicker, try and get this turnaround on some of the big issues that are going on, especially considering the last time we had Last Ship Standing, they actually had to cut that off short because of issues that they're having with the ships exploding. So it's a real shame that that's the kind of thing that we're running into right now. But, you know, for the betterment of the players to be able to have things happen in the way that they should have that kind of expectation, I appreciate that the dev team is working so hard to get some of these hot fixes in as frequently as they have been. So I wanted to cover this one today just to give you guys an idea of what's been changing. If you've been noticing stuff that feels a little off, maybe this is why. So first big update that they talked about was the Chest of Fortune balancing. The issues preventing some of the emergent world events from awarding a Chest of Fortune upon completion have been addressed. The Chest of Fortune is now being awarded as intended. When tackling any of these emergent world events, the chances of players finding one or even multiple chests have now been increased significantly. So I'm really glad that they did that. Unfortunately, this is one of those things that I've seen a couple of the data miners on Twitter who have been kind of posting some of the actual percentages for these. And it's nice to see that they have definitely been increased. I think that was a question in my mind of, how much more they were going to be giving them when I read the patch notes, because they've never really provided that many actual numbers when genuinely, I don't know that they really need to have that be something that is a hidden number. I think providing a percentage would help with community members being able to take a look and see hey, this is something that, is not working. We've been doing this testing. We've completed these world events. These ones have a much smaller spawn rate than what was posted in the patch notes. So you know, as my good friend Luke Lore says on our show for the expansion pass, clarity is kindness. And I think it's one of those situations where I would appreciate if they kind of at least showed us what was the intended percentage for the drop rates for the Chest of Fortunes. So it's one of those things that I like the fact that they are at least addressing this, but it would be easier to know kind of going forward, like whether or not it is or it isn't, if we had those numbers in the patch notes. So stuff like that, you know, who knows like why they choose not to do that, but I would prefer if they at least had some of those available. Next up, let's talk about gameplay. The following world events now provide a chance of discovering a chest of fortune as intended. And this is kind of in line with what we were just talking about. So the chest of fortune is supposed to show up in skeleton forts, reaper fortresses, the fort of fortune, ashen winds, skeleton fleets, ghost fleets, the burning blade, and the fort of the damned. So hopefully those are some that you guys have been able to get some. I have not seen one yet, but that could just be RNG, could be a bug that had to get fixed. Crews should no longer find that during a fort siege, skeleton waves can stop appearing, halting progress through the encounter. This addresses issues experienced in skeleton forts, reaper fortresses, the fort of fortune, and the fort of the damned. So appreciate that. Moving into faction battles, they say players who attempt to scuttle prior to sinking during a faction battle can no longer prevent their opponent from receiving the win and their rewards. So I don't know why this was the case. I don't know if they had like tried to alt quit when they found out like who they were going up against, but I at least appreciate that they address this. When I initially read this, I read this differently. I actually read this as they were preventing players from being able to scuttle and stay on the same server. That is still one of the easier ways to actually try and get 2 ships on a server. And I think that's one of those things that I'm actually still kind of wondering where Safer Seas' fleets are, as that was a topic of conversation a while ago when we were talking about custom seas and being able to pay for a subscription to be able to have access to custom seas. They've obviously taken out the ability to do that when they announced that custom seas was going to be free. But I still would like to have the opportunity, at least in Safer Seas, to be able to have multiple ships together, to be able to kind of like help multiple players at once, and just kind of enjoy the game in some fashion without it just being purely custom seas. Because I think custom seas is good if you want to set up events. I think if you're just looking to sail, then Safer Seas is a good way to do that and have multiple multiple ships on one server. As of right now, going into 2 ships and diving to a hourglass faction battle of opposing factions at the same time is going to be your best opportunity to try and actually get 2 ships on the same server. There's a little bit of a way to go about doing that, but that's kind of like the main way right now. So this, for all intents and purposes, this is just to try and address an issue where players who are attempting to scuttle prior to the sinking during a faction battle can no longer prevent their opponent from receiving the win and their rewards. And I know, at least from my experience, when it comes to faction battles, trying to get 2 ships on a server, I could care less if that actually grants a win or any reputation. It's just the easiest way to actually get 2 ships. Next up, let's talk about the other things. They said that the Bilge Rat Weekender, the further improvements have been made to prevent challenge checklists from appearing blank when they're opened up or when you go into the Bilge Rat Weekender. As I recall, that is actually something that is going to be happening. Let's see. The Weekender is going to be going on from July 17th through to July 20th. So this coming weekend is actually going to be the Bilge Rat Weekender. And as always, that's going to have like free events, live events that are going to be going on. and that it'll be easier for you to start working on getting some more doubloons, so that if you do actually have stuff to purchase from Duke or Lorena, that you will be able to use the voyages available during that Bilge Rat Weekender to get those. The other thing about that, again, I believe with this being the new month in this season, Lorena should actually have a new set of cosmetics from past seasons to be able to purchase for doubloons as well. This should also have some of the commendation revamps that were being worked on in Insiders, so looking forward to that. I actually in the video that's going to be for the actual YouTube version of this, I ended up finishing up my snakes for Merchant Alliance, but I'm still like one fruit crate away from completing that before the actual update goes. And to be perfectly honest, the update to that isn't going to like impact whether or not I'm upset that I didn't get them done sooner, or that I'm not getting something. I'm just trying to actually get that done before it actually switches over, just to know for my own sake that I got it, when the fruit crates were the only way to actually achieve those commendations. I don't think I'm going to be lucky enough to be able to get the number of cannonball crates, or no, what's the other one? Wood crates. I'm close on wood crates. I'm very far from my cast iron merchant, but that's okay. I would still need more than half for the cast iron merchant, and that's just one of those tough ones. It's tough to kind of like find those when you can, but I am still kind of hunting. And right now, my best advice for the fruit crates is actually to look in the barrels of plenty. The messages in a bottle on those tend to give you one of the main trade companies, and I've had better luck between Merchant Alliance and Order of Souls. Those are the ones that I've had the best luck with so far. So hopefully if you guys are working on those, you keep an eye out for them as well. But the Bilge Rat Weekend are coming out on the 17th through to the 20th this weekend, hoping that everything goes smoothly. I'm genuinely interested to see like how this is going to land. This will be the third one. And to be perfectly honest, it's one of those things that I think truly needs to like work as intended, like work properly, especially given everyone's kind of like feelings on what's going to happen with the SoT Fest. A lot of people are trying to actually like have a good story to tell, or reasons to go jump back into Sea of Thieves. Additionally, that's it. That's actually pretty much it for the hotfix. There wasn't really a whole lot outside of that. So hopefully you guys are having better luck with your chests of fortune. Hopefully you're finding a lot of those. I have yet, but that's okay, because I haven't really been focused too much on world events. I have really appreciated that the world events themselves actually do have normal loot for them. That is something that I think is genuinely like just the one thing that I wanted to know was kind of like a main thing. I'm glad that there's like a raid voyages from time to time, but honestly, if they just stayed world events, I'd be fine with that as well too. Let's see. I think there was one other thing that I wanted to give you guys a heads up on. Yes. So fight nights, Tuesdays, starting from July 14th, fight nights are making a return. Another favored event for PvP-minded crews make a return this month, offering up increased allegiance for every battle won or lost when you set out on behalf of your chosen faction. Rather than the usual weekend-long fight nights sessions you're experienced before, things are a little different now. Fight nights will last for 24 hours, but will return every week as part of Sea of Thieves' reoccurring live event calendar. The only exception will be during weeks in which Last Ship Standing is also active. To ensure that the two events don't get in the way of each other, all the ship types have the same chance to earn their crews that all important extra allegiance. And I'm actually fine with this. I think this is a fine way to bring in fight nights. I think Friday fight nights would have been better. I think that would have been something that people would have appreciated. But I know that tends to overlap into issues with them kind of doing events over the weekend, because usually during the weekend they kick up on Friday. And that can really conflict. If it's a Golden Glory, you don't really get the benefit of the double boosted allegiance because it's already going to be Golden Glory weekend or community weekend. So having it on a Tuesday is kind of a nice way to throw something in the middle of the week. The fact that it will be something that is weekly is smart. I still think that Rare could do well to have ways to increase regular merchant or trade company reputations during the week as well too, and have it be one of those things where like every week you have a different company that is being able to have increased bonus to reputation, or one of those situations where it's like every other week. So you have 1 week that is the Build Rat Weekender, you have one weekend that is Golden Glory, you have one weekend that is the community event, you have 1 week where it's going to be Last Ship Standing, then you have another week where it's going to be Merchant Alliance, and then a couple weeks later it's the Gold Hoarders, and a couple weeks later it's Athena's Fortune. Just kind of ways to increase the reputation, or at least drive engagement with their live events. I think would be good ways to try and drive engagement, but maybe that's something that they're looking at. Maybe it's something that they're talking about and they're not quite sure, or how that's going to work out. Last Ship Standing release is going to be on Friday, July 17th. That is, let me actually take a look. That is Friday, I believe. Yeah, Friday. Last Ship Standing's release in the midst of a 6-ship battle. It's not always that easy to stop and enjoy the musical score rising around you. Fortunately, you'll no longer have to. From July 17th, you'll be able to, this is not actually Last Ship Standing as the event. This is actually going to be the music score. It's actually going to be the song. So the song for Last Ship Standing is going to be released on all streaming platforms on July 17th. So this is not a mea culpa for them shutting down Last Ship Standing early. This is them just doing their normal kind of release schedule. Every update, they have at least one song that tends to go out to streaming services. It just happens to be Last Ship Standing at this point. And then the last bit of news is actually going to be around the July game update. So on July 23rd, they are going to be doing the next update for season 20. And then they say, though Sea of Thieves is no longer set to follow the 3-act structure that we've used in previous seasons, that doesn't mean monthly updates are a thing of the past. And I'll get into that in a second. The next one will arrive on July 23rd and is set to introduce some adjustments and improvements to Custom Seas experience, a bundle of fixes across the board, and of course, new cosmetic offerings in the Pirate Emporium and Outpost shops. That right there is actually the true reason for this. It is a way to push updates. It is a way to have like a monthly update, but for all intents and purposes, the cosmetic offerings to the Pirate Emporium and Outpost shops are the main reason, the only true driver of updates in the game. It is when they generally drop in a whole bunch of stuff. In this case, it is going to be a Fiery Pegasus ship set that is going to be added to the Emporium. So keep an eye out for that. We'll have to see how things go with the actual Outpost shops, as this last update that they did for the beginning of season 20 had a pretty lackluster inclusion of new cosmetics to the Outpost shops. It was just clothing. I imagine what they are probably going to do is release the clothing on the first update, the equipment on the second update, and then the weapons on the third update. But we'll have to see how that goes. I've not stepped foot in Insiders to take a look and see if what I just said is actually even accurate. But we're not too long from the actual update itself. We're about 11 days away from that's actually going to pop out. Alongside the update, you can actually look forward to the Gold and Glory weekend that is going to start on Friday, the day after the update, the 24th, and then it's going to run all weekend until Monday, the 27th. So if you guys have wanted to work on some guild reputation, some increased gold, renown, allegiance, all of that stuff is going to be boosted for the Gold and Glory weekend, at least double what you would normally expect. I know I was looking at the actual guild that we have for the patrons, whoever's included in there. And I noticed that we are actually fairly close to hitting our next level We're in the 90s right now, and I've been trying to take a look. Actually, I think, you know, it would be smart of me to actually go to log into my to log into my Pirate to actually check it instead of just booting up the game. But instead, I decided to boot up the game because I was like, I could just boot up the game and take a quick peek here. It would probably be, well, we're going to find out which is quicker, whether or not it's actually logging into the website or if it's actually getting into the game to see how close we are to the next level. And I think it might actually be the website. So let's see. Yes. Yep. It turned out it was actually faster to do to the website. So we are at Distinction 6 and we are at level 95 on the Keelhauled Captains. The Keelhauled Hoarders, which is a small number of folks who are in there who are not too active. That one is still at level 17. Funny enough. So I'm glad that the Keelhauled Captains has been pushing up the ranks, and I'm trying to see like what the number of players are available, because I know they increased it to, I think it's 30. Yeah, it is 30. I thought it was 32 at some point, but there is still one slot open on that one, and I will probably take a look and see if anyone has a desire to jump into that, or if you're in that one and you don't need to be in that one, you've got something else, feel free to let me know so I can take you out of the guild. But if you're good, then no worries. But we are really close to actually hitting that distinction level 7 on our way to 10. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome. We also we need a little bit more guild reputation in the ledger to be able to get the final legendary guild reward for that, which is the below Wonderlit Skies, which is the fireworks one. We are already set to go for the Riches of Friendship, which is some coins in a contract for the guild itself for the second to top tier on the actual like ledger for that. But I think we've got, looks like 262,000 ledger position or value, emissary value needed to reach the legendary guild, which I think is actually pretty easy. I don't think that that's actually too bad. I could probably drop into the server and go do some stuff real quick under a guild flag and actually nail that top ledger reward. But we've also got 19 days. So there's still quite a bit of time to be able to get up to that top tier to get that reward. If you are in that guild and that is like one of your main guilds. So just a heads up on that as well too. Taking a look back, I did just cover I did cover the actual guild thing, right? Or not the guild thing, but the what did I just say? The Golden Glory weekend. Yes. Okay. Covered the Golden Glory weekend. So just as a heads up about that, there is a sale on the Emporium during that last weekend of the month as well too, the July 20th through the 27th. So take a look and see. There are some cosmetics in there that are going to be up to 30% off. And then it looks like the last thing to cover with July is actually going to be Twitch drops. So Twitch drops are going to be kicking up on July 24th, and going through till Wednesday, July 29th. So it's going to start at the beginning of Golden Glory weekend. They say that Twitch viewers will be pleased to know that there are more drops on the horizon. Players who link their accounts and watch Sea of Thieves partners for at least 30 minutes during the drops window can start unlocking a collection of fresh rewards, including gold, renown. They have the Hear No Evil emote that was actually supposed to be in May's, I believe it was May's Twitch drops, and they subsequently took out because of the very bad look that would have been given the Bruno situation, which has not been lost on people. That is still something that is rubbing people the wrong way, and still one of those things that we hope Rare is taking serious considerations to how they plan to do stuff, and how people there are actually being held accountable. So no word on that. I doubt we'll ever hear anything about it, but rip boatswains for those that were part of that and had no clue and just woke up one day and their title was gone. But you can get the Hear No Evil emote, the Masked Destroyer title, the Rising Morningstar dress, and the Beachcomber Bounty flag, which I think was actually another thing. Also, if you stick around for the full 6 hours, the previously unreleased Feline bandana is going to be released as well too. Apparently it's cat ears. I guess it's cat ears. So we are going to be having cat ears in Sea of Thieves. Not a very piratey thing. I don't know that that's something that's very piratey. But that's fine. It is what it is, you know. That we could have had something else that was very piratey, who knows. But that's not what we're getting. We're getting cat ears. But it's a free drop, so you know, free cosmetics are never one to turn a blind eye towards. And that's pretty much it as far as July goes. I have been enjoying Sea of Thieves, the times that I've been dropping in. I've been mostly dropping in to try and focus on my Merchant Alliance stuff, the commendations that are in there, because generally those are the ones that are the hardest to get done. And as a result, I've been kind of working on animals, and I think I can get like maybe 3-4 merchant voyages before I'm just completely wiped and cannot summon any kind of amount of interest or enjoyment in continuing to ferry things that spit at me and make me have to deal with a purple screen for most of the time that I spend sailing around. But I will get those done. They will eventually be done, and I think I'm halfway through my Athena's Fortune, turning in fauna to merchants. So less than 250 left, I guess, is a positive. That's a win, right? Yeah, I'm getting there. I don't have to do any more of the actual animals for Merchant Alliance, but I do still need them for Athena's Fortune. So still working on that, but we'll get there eventually. All right. I did want to talk about SoT Fest. I know a lot of you were out there and enjoying it. It was really good to see a lot of the Weathered Buccaneers over there hanging out and having fun. I hope you guys had a good time this weekend. I know you all went to a con as well after Sea of Thieves Fest, and it was interesting to kind of watch some of the streams that were going on there during the 2 days. But we had some bad news. And originally, it came out to be a lot worse of a situation than eventually kind of realized. But unfortunately, the end of SoT Fest had to be cut short because of a fear that a couple of the people had to deal with spiked drinks. Now, this is a pretty serious matter, and it is definitely something that you want to be careful with it when it comes to any kind of public event. You always want to be very considerate about like what you're doing with your considerate. Yeah. When you're putting your drinks down somewhere, you don't want to leave drinks unattended. You don't want to drink anything that someone that you don't know that well has offered you. And you absolutely want to report anything that doesn't seem right or something that you see when it comes to going to like after parties and stuff like that. So it's funny because in the the tube system in London, one of the things that always kind of struck me like as someone that doesn't really deal with subways was the saying that always comes up on the intercoms. That's not mind the gap. Like I understand mind the gap, but if you see something, say something. And that applies when it goes to conventions as well too. And one of the other things is things like especially with conventions, cosplay is not consent. There's very strict guidelines when it comes to these events that you handle, that you treat other people with respect, and you don't do things like what was originally kind of scary. And there were some reports that had been received that potentially multiple drinks had been spiked at the after party with an unknown substance, and they had to cut things short because there's a fear that other people might be impacted by this. There were 2 individuals, one that went to the hospital, one that didn't. The person that went to the hospital got a checkup to see what was going on, and it seems like everything was fine. It seems like it may have been food poisoning and not something that was actually related to a substance from a drink. The other person, they did not get checked out, so we don't know for sure what happened to them, but it does seem like whatever did happen to them, they are better and feeling better about what was going on. So originally, it was a pretty frightening and upsetting thing to hear about from just social media and from the Discord server. I think while it sucks that SoT Fest had to cut things off short for the after party, I think I would have preferred they do that and that way not run the risk of other people being exposed to potentially being in a situation where they were consuming something that was not good for them. So I'm glad that they did what they did. It did unfortunately put a huge damper on the event. It really kind of kicked up this sentiment of like, it sucks that as fans of the game, as fans of being able to celebrate your enjoyments in life and stuff and be able to meet up with folks that you don't get to see on a regular basis, that there would be bad actors out there who are then going to events and actually trying to undermine the good nature of what was going on by spiking drinks. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like that was necessarily the case, but I will always kind of like keep you guys updated on that as more and more information comes out. It is still relatively early on, so hopefully things are not as malicious as it seemed initially when we heard about this. But overall, I think that a lot of people had a good time at SoT Fest. I think that the devs that did show up were appreciated. I think, as always, a lot of people want to talk to Drew. They want to talk to Mike Chapman and Joe Neat. I know I had at least one of the devs that was there that I talked to in DMs, once in a while. It was nice to see them there as well, kind of talking about stuff on the panel and actually get to chat with them, let them know like, hey, I saw you on the stream. It was nice that you guys went out and did that. It was nice to kind of have y'all speak to the community at a point that genuinely, like, I think the community really wants to ensure that their concerns are being met with open minds and ears. As I understand it, there wasn't anyone from the community team there. I think that honestly was probably a smart move. I think a lot of people had canceled their reservations to go to SoT Fest as a result of the most recent issues with the Boatswains and Bruno and that whole situation. And I think it was kind of prudent of Rare to kind of say like, hey, maybe now is not the best time to be walking around socializing with the community management team. There's very much like a little bit of a bruise on the community, and you really don't want to remind them of what's going on if you're trying to set up an environment that people feel safe and people feel like this is not something that is necessarily going to try and drag down the intent behind SoT Fest. And I understand that, and I think that that's a fair way to go about it. You're going to Disneyland to try and enjoy Disneyland and not think about the horrible things that Disney does with all the other stuff on their corporate side. The intent is to try and go and have a moment where you can escape from that and just have some fun. You can do protests, you can do discussions, have conversations, ask for actions and stuff like that. And do that while still also enjoying the intent of the actual fest, which is to go visit your friends and enjoy company that you spend time playing Sea of Thieves with, which is realistically, the event itself is not a Rare sponsored thing that I know of, and it is solely done by fans of the game for fans of the game. And as always, it's one of those things, they work really hard on trying to get this thing set up every year. And they're putting a lot of their money into creating this SoT Fest. And it's not an easy thing, and it requires a lot of commitment. So I'm hoping that, Calamity, Kaz, Music Me, Blair, Liz LaRue, all of them are doing well. I hope that they get plenty of rest and they don't deal with too many issues, but they're able to kind of have some respite after this and just kind of relax. I know that there were some creators out there that I saw that were trying to help things out as well. One of those things I would say, honestly, based on some of the streams that I watched, if there's one bit of advice I can toss out there, just add my 2 cents to the well. Humility is a truly hard thing to learn, but it is really nice if people can be humble about the situation that they're in, and just try to remember that not everything that is going on when you have a microphone is a reason for you to be making a pitch for yourself. Again, one of those reasons why there are certain content creators that I appreciate, that I follow, that I like, because of the hubris that they have when it comes to treating themselves in front of others. There were obviously like a few notable people that weren't there or were there, and I hope that everyone had a good, positive experience to actually come away with from the actual Sea of Thieves Fest, in light of the situation that was going on at the after party on the second night. With that being said, there were actual panels. And while not every panel was recorded or streamed, I did watch the panels that had the Rare devs on them. And the one that I wanted to call out the most was the Q&A session with Mike, as well as a bunch of the team members who are there to kind of help like make connections with the fans and kind of answer some of the questions that they have. There were a lot of questions that were asked at other panels that I got a bit of a play-by-play on. But without actually seeing it, it's hard to know, like, you know, if this is something that's worth speaking on, because it didn't feel like, at least from Mike Chapman's perspective, that there's a lot that he can really talk about when the game is in the current state that it's in. And I did reach out to Mike on socials, in DMs, to kind of like let him know that it was nice that he was there and that I appreciated seeing him, and talking to Davram from Pirate Talk Radio. Because Davram was nice enough to let me know, like, hey, Mike's here. I'm going to go say hi and whatnot. And I was like, please let Mike know that I said hi as well. And that would be, it's great that he's there and that I hope he's doing well. But the actual panel really kind of echoed what Mike told me about how he wanted to talk about more, and in some of the other panels, that now is not necessarily the time that Rare should be pushing story when it comes to, in comparison to the game health. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that I understand where he's coming from, but I also genuinely want to have story. Like I think that the story is the main driving factor for me, at least in Sea of Thieves. And a lot of people have, the Hourglass, the Last Ship Standing, the Fight Nights. Those currently right now are feeding quite a bit of the PvP players in a good way. And I truly appreciate that they have that as an outlet, because for a long time that it didn't feel like they had that, because of things like mysteries, because of things like adventure, or adventures. So I'm glad that they're eating well right now. And I hope that the Last Ship Standing, the next time that circles around, that they're able to actually take care of some of the issues that have been plaguing it since its inception, and just kind of like let people be able to enjoy that kind of week's worth of content for the month. With the panel, the main takeaways that the dev team had kind of expressed was they enjoy building the game, but live service is extremely hard. And this is something that I've talked about in the past, about how it feels like Rare has yet to really nail how to do live service. And I don't, I truly understand, like there's a lot that goes on with a live service. And I think what Rare is working to do right now is to build out that live service event schedule, so that there is a constant flow of things to look forward to. I think that they're doing a pretty good job with that. If the events that they have scheduled are working well and aren't buggy, we'll have to see how this next Build Rat Weekender goes. I'm hoping it goes well, because I want them to succeed in having that kind of event schedule. But they did talk about how live service games are really hard. And that's kind of this long in, it's definitely kind of apparent that it's not something that's just easy enough to set up and then let it live on its own. The other thing that they talked about is that they are always wanting to try and build new things. That it's one thing to have things built and done, but they don't want to run into the problem where they are just being stagnant and recreating something that's the same all the time. So they really love kind of building out new stuff. And then it kind of got into the question of what are some of the coolest things that they've seen with custom seas. And Mike talked about how one of the things that they talked about wanting to see in custom seas, if it was possible or not, was the D&D session that Toxic did. And they were really happy that within the first couple of weeks, someone had already figured out how to do a D&D campaign within custom seas, and that they love watching people on stream kind of experiment in Sea of Thieves and how that's given them a lot of ideas about what they can do to try and embed the actual system so that there's better tools, better knobs, better things to implement, switches, toggles, things like that, that people will have to be able to continue creating and using custom seas as a way to drive engagement with the content in a new and interesting way without trying to make that joke. They also said that they want to continue working on custom seas. And Mike made a real strong point about how, and this is something that's been very true, they build a 1.0 and then they're feverishly on to the next thing to build out the next 1.0. And they've never really stuck to going back to something and reiterating and refining and polishing the edges, smoothing the rough spots out. And they want to do that with custom seas. Ironically enough, custom seas is one of those things that I genuinely think is cool. It's great. I would personally like to have that kind of attention paid towards guilds, paid towards captaincy. Having 30 people for a guild is a real shame, because I've got, 9 other people sitting over in another guild that aren't getting the benefits of the first guild, because the majority of people are in the first guild. And, as a content creator, as a community member, I would love to be able to have larger guilds. I would love to be able to have better features and stuff like that. And to actually jump forward into the panel a little bit, one of the things that they talked about was the legendary locations for custom seas. And one of the questions came up was to be able to explore the Sea Dog Tavern. And it was actually kind of nice, because Mike had talked about how in some meetings they talked how they wanted to have the Sea Dog Tavern brought back in a way that it wasn't just giving access to be able to walk around and explore there, but to have a reason to actually go there, to a purpose for it. And they talked about, ways they could do that for captains. They talked about ways to do that for guilds. And if it was like a shared social space that you could actually have, depending on like how you actually approached it. And I think that is one of those things that it's like, yes, I would love to have something like that, but at the bare minimum, it would be cool to at least have access to the inside of the Sea Dog Tavern. But they did talk about like legendary locations and how that's important, how to implement those, especially if there's different ways or time frames that those have been available in the game through mysteries and adventures, and how to actually like implement them in custom seas. If there's a versioning system that we can choose or select from, if you wanted to say visit a legendary location, well, let's visit the Sea Dog Tavern in the Sea of the Damned at a different point than the one that is available, or maybe have a legendary location where they allow you to go back to a Golden Sands outpost and be able to have like that old outpost as opposed to Port Merrick, or maybe different versions of Port Merrick if that's what you want to do with your kind of storytelling experience. So they talked about some of the things around that and whether that was going to work out. And again, that's it's great that they want to do that. But I think that they're so bullish on trying to stay committed to custom seas that they're getting lost in the trees amongst the forest, I think is the saying, or something akin to that. But they're so narrowly focused in on doing right by custom seas and not letting that become stagnant, that the other large implementations of their systems are going to suffer as a result, and where that attention has to be paid. Because I think, like they mentioned, they had some cool ideas for captains and guilds that involved the Sea Dog Tavern, but never got implemented. And the question is why? Well, part of the reason is they wanted to focus on new tools to enrich the sandbox, to add quality of life features to the game. And they didn't have, they had these themes that they wanted to do. One of the past themes that they wanted to talk about was bringing catapults to a themed season for like castaways, that you could launch barrels. You could launch barrels on these catapults. You could launch multiple people in the catapults and stuff like that. But it was something that while they prototyped it, it was not something that was really a thing that they ended up pushing through. And to be perfectly honest, I genuinely am glad that they did not make that choice. Not because I'm a hater on catapults, but because if we're going to add anything to this pirate video game, having a land-based catapult type system is not the thing that I think I would prefer to have. I think I would actually prefer to have something like different ship types, or one of the other ideas that Mike had actually put out there, which was Athena's Fortune, which, to bring a little clarity to, the ship that Ramsey sails for Athena's Fortune is the name of his ship. And the intent was originally to have the Burning Blade be a ship that was like in the world and was kind of like available for crews to take over. And then the other side of that coin was to bring back Athena's Fortune for the that faction group. And then you could actually go and take over Athena's Fortune and go head to head against the Burning Blade. Now, unfortunately, the problem is that Sea of Thieves is supporting the Xbox One and very old PCs. And that, unfortunately, puts quite a bit of strain on the engine that they're using. They're using an old version from 2015, 2016 of Unreal 4. And there are just limitations that they have with that engine. There's no real idea of whether or not switching over to Unreal 5 would alleviate some of the streaming fixes that they had with that. But to be perfectly honest, I would say that if you were going to try and build that thing, I think maybe a Sea of Thieves 2 is what we're looking for. I think having a stronger engine, one that has more capabilities, has alleviated some of those issues with big open worlds and streaming content to players as they come upon it. I think, maybe have something like that for a Sea of Thieves 2. But that was something that they talked about. One of the things that they wanted to like bring in there. And I thought that was actually pretty cool. I thought that was one of those things that would be really fun for players to have. As a technical challenge, there's also other things that they've talked about that were things that they know players want, but are things that they haven't been able to bring to the game just due to how technically complex they are. And unfortunately, this is one of those situations where it's not just a quick flip of the switch. It may seem like that, but there's a lot of things that go into place with that. And to be perfectly honest, I'm going to levy the blame at the UI people for this, because the UI itself is not the greatest. It's getting better. It's gotten better. It's definitely better than it was. But I think that the UI artists or designers here are really to blame when it comes to why we don't have outfits. I think technically the opportunity is available, as we have ways to actually pin ship cosmetics to specific ships. So obviously you can load a ship in with specific cosmetics. Why that is not something that is available for pirates, I think realistically lies within how the UI of that would actually work out, and then the actual design around that, as well as the engineering about how to actually switch those presets. And I don't know if that's something that is possible with the technology that they use for costumes, because those are essentially just a change in the skin that you have. But that is something that I think would be nice to actually take a look at. So that was one of the other things that they talked about, was outfits are technically very difficult, but that doesn't mean that they don't want to do them. They also know that players are interested in new ships and new like new actual islands. And the conversation always comes back to, how do we build out new islands and expand the world while still retaining some of the technical limitations that they have with the engine, while also maintaining that players are running into each other within a certain amount of time, that you see another ship on the horizon within a 20 to 30 minute time frame, or a 30 to 40 minute time frame, so that you have an opportunity to be, or to interact with other players. Otherwise, you're just playing a single player game in a multiplayer world, which a lot of people don't mind. But other people do like to have those interactions. It just depends on, you know, how spicy you're feeling for the day. So things like new islands and new ships are something that they are aware players have been asking for, something that they've been wanting to have for a long time, but unfortunately are just a very technical challenge. And where do you place that when you're looking at the stability of the game, the health of the game, where people feel the health of the game actually is compared to what it is as far as like critical errors or errors that they're running into at the actual development level? All of that kind of plays into part, which again kind of goes back to that conversation from Mike Chapman about how they would love to be able to talk about story, and how story and the development of that would be a great focus for them, design wise, for them to do on a narrative scope, to be able to help kind of bring a little bit more light to some of the stuff that we're doing in the game. But unfortunately, the focus is on stability and game health. And I think that that is a fair trade. And I know it must be frustrating as someone who is part of who is the creative director for the game, to be like, hey, you know, the thing you like to do is great. I'm sure you've got some fantastic ideas. It's just not important right now. And I can imagine that being very frustrating, because your job is being hampered by the development of other people's work on the game. And you don't really have a good timeline on when you can really jump back into what you want to do, to be excited about what you do for a living. So I feel for him on that. And at a level, I understand that it's a job. He's doing his work. They're probably prepping for stuff, but he can't be as enthusiastic about what's going on right now. Just in general, because of how things are going with Sea of Thieves. And this is, part of the reason why I'm stopping the podcast, is because I think Rare needs to have some time to focus on taking care of their game. And when things come back, when things look good, or if there's something exciting to really jump back into, that's where I consider whether or not I'm going to come back to podcasting. But I want to give myself that opportunity to take some time away and just play the game like everyone else does. So taking a look at what else we've got going on here, they did talk about their favorite updates, which was A Pirate's Life, Hungering Deep Anniversary Update, Glitterbeard, and Monkey Island, which realistically to me tells me that the thing that drives the studio the most is Tall Tales. Pirate's Life, the best update that they've ever had. Hands down the most popular one as well. Monkey Island, the next set of Tall Tales that they did after A Pirate's Life, they've got the anniversary update, which was the inception of the actual Tall Tales, like the initial 9 that they did, with the subsequent ones later on. And then the Hungering Deep was the first event that they ever had. And that was kind of like their big first thing after the game's launch. And the fact that they launched it 2 months after the game had come out and were able to get that content after scrapping everything, a testament to what they were able to do, and really impressive that they were able to really kind of be able to pump out as much content as they did in those first couple of years there. Glitterbeard is a very personal thing for the studio because of who they lost, because of what Glitterbeard means to them, and being able to build that, being able to add it to the game And shout out to the Keelhauled crew, because I know Rainbow Sam and was able to help Lost Lorax get groups together to be able to go and actually do Glitterbeard in game, which was fantastic. I'm very glad that they were able to find some folks to help kind of get into Glitterbeard on Paradise Valley, and actually kind of have that moment again, because it is a truly beautiful experience. It is a very amazing and very emotional thing to actually witness and to actually participate in. So I'm glad that they were able to do that. It's really nice. I would love to have something like that available in Custom Seas as well, just to be able to like bring people in and show them and actually kind of like do some filming in there if you wanted with the actual camera, stuff like that. So really glad to see that. The last thing that I wanted to talk about from the actual panel was the Sea of Thieves movie. Not a whole lot of details on this. They are working with a production company. They are still looking for writers, and they are still looking to try and do something with that. Mike did talk about the fact that they did have a lot of people come to them with ideas, but they weren't going to just make a movie based on something that was going to make like just for the sake of making a movie. They wanted to make sure that they worked with a team that understood the heart and soul of what Sea of Thieves is before they really do that. One of the things that they did comment on is that they want this to be an original story, but also be something for the fans of the game, not just a blanket movie for Sea of Thieves that was going to be there. I'm still very curious, like if this is going to be live action or animated. I think animated lends itself well, given the nature of Sea of Thieves in general, and the reason why someone like Illumination would be a good studio to work with, but that's all going to come down the line and after they come up with a good script for that as well. And that was pretty much the panel. I'm really glad that they were able to do it. I'm glad that they were able to actually like talk about it and actually have a good time. Unfortunately, some of the issues that have been going on with the Sea of Thieves Fest, like as far as like, you know, people being there and whatnot, it was really kind of a shame that there was a huge damper on the end of it. I hope that there's another Sea of Thieves Fest next year. This is definitely one of the years that I think was kind of the most difficult for them to really address and understand like where people are coming into. But this is one of those things that unfortunately them kind of, you know, jumping to the conclusion that someone was dealing with spiked drinks is scary, and unfortunately that was one of those things like you know, they wanted to be safe about it. They maybe have decided that they could have just shut it down without actually explaining it and been a little more discreet about that. But at the other end of it, I'm just going to say, you know, I'd rather they be prudent about the situation and be honest with what they think is going on. But unfortunately, it's gonna be a tough situation. I don't know how I would have dealt with it at the time. Thankfully I didn't have to, but it's not easy trying to do events. It's not easy to try and do stuff like that. So we'll have to see how things pan out for that. But I think that the SoT Fest at the end of the day tried to do the best that they could. And, you know, people are going to have opinions one way or the other about that. All right. The last thing that I wanted to jump into is I just recently finished up my first playthrough and review of Assassin's Creed Resynced, or Black Flag Resynced. This is Assassin's Creed 4. This is the new remake of it. And to be perfectly honest, I've actually been very impressed with it. I have played a little bit of the original, not a whole lot. Like I got stuck in Havana when I first started, and the controls are just very bizarre to me, especially with modern day kind of like conventions around design for how we play games and action games and stuff like that. So when I went in, I was very curious to see how I would like it. And to be perfectly honest, I don't do numbers on scores, but I would very much recommend this one. If you've never played it, it's a great game to jump into. The story is basically about a fictional character called Edward Kenway, and you are kind of playing alongside historical figures within pirate history. It is definitely a testament to what a fantastic pirate game can be. I think it is definitely one of the best pirate games I've ever played. And I will say that the remake of it is very good, especially if you've never played it. It's a fantastic story. If you're interested in stories around like the original historical actors or not actors, what's it called? Pirates back in the golden age of piracy. Black Sails is a very mature rated show that was on HBO. Actually, probably still is on HBO if I think about it. But that is one that I would say is in comparison to Assassin's Creed Black Sails or Black Flag Resynced, it is really, really good. It has you alongside Blackbeard and Vane. Steed, Anne Bonny, Captain Kidd, pretty much all of the mainstays for all of the pirates that we have kind of like back in the day. It does a good job of kind of weaving in the Assassin's Creed stuff as well too. I would say that this is one of those ones that they did a good job of kind of keeping the modern day Abstergo entertainment stuff with the Animus out of the game and just kind of focused on it being a pirate game, which I really enjoyed. There's no multiplayer in this remake like there was with the original, but I would point to Skull and Bones if you like that style of combat with ships, and say that they've definitely got some plans in store for Skull and Bones to help with like kind of the ground combat aspect of the game that, as far as I remember, was kind of non-existent. But if you're interested in pirate games and you've been looking for something else and you've been hearing about Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, I did do a review for that for the expansion pass, as Ubisoft was nice enough to provide a code for me for that. So I would definitely say, like, if you're interested, I'll leave a link in the show notes. You can head over to the expansion pass if you want to watch the review over there as well too. But very impressed with that game. Really disappointed in myself that I didn't play it a lot sooner, but genuinely like one of the best pirate games I've ever played. So definitely go check that out if you guys have any interest in games outside of Sea of Thieves that are still pirate based as well too. And that is going to do it for this episode of the Keelhauled podcast. Again, this is episode 424. It is the second to last, the penultimate podcast episode for the Keelhauled podcast. I appreciate everyone who has been sticking around. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. I hope you guys have a good time. The next episode will be the last episode, and it will unfortunately be after or before the actual like update for the July comes out. I will, as always, still be kind of talking about Sea of Thieves, posting about it in the Keelhauled podcast, on social medias as well too. The podcast itself is just the thing that I'm going to be finishing up and kind of wrapping up as I find I am looking to regain some of that time on my weekends to kind of focus in on other content, because right now I have at least one review that I need to get done. There is a code for a game that I'm not going to be able to do a review for, that comes out on the 19th for Xbox and PlayStation and stuff. And then there's another game that I'm actually like scheduled to be getting a code for soon to be able to jump into to help out with the review for that one for July as well. And we aren't even in the busiest part of game releases right now. Like September and October are going to be insane. So that's where a lot of that focus and time and energy is going to be spent, trying to make content for Expansion Pass, and just kind of spend more time kind of exploring other games and doing that. But as always, Sea of Thieves is going to be one of these things. I am always going to be a pirate at heart. I will never forget like what I've been able to do here and what I can do towards the future. And again, it's one of those things. I want to leave myself the opportunity to come back if that passion in me comes back in some fashion or another. If there's a Sea of Thieves 2 announced in the next 2 years, If there's a Pirate Life 2 that's announced in the coming year, I know that's going to be something I'm going to want to talk about. And I want to leave myself open the opportunity to come back to Keelhauled and kind of kick that up. And if I do, I will definitely let you all know about that. But for all intents and purposes, I will be trying to keep up the podcast as something that is like available even after I'm done. The cost investment for keeping Podbeam alive is not tremendous. So it is something that I could probably kind of factor into just everyday costs and see if I can actually like have that be something that I can help kind of keep going. So if people do want to keep up with the actual podcast, they have that available. For all intents and purposes though, as far as I know, all of the episodes are available on the YouTube as well too. So if you want to listen back, I think YouTube has all the original episodes on there. I may actually need to check that. And what I may end up doing is seeing if I can go in, if I haven't, and add the old episodes. If they aren't available on there, what I'll end up doing is I may just end up grabbing the audio, the MP3 files, and uploading them to YouTube with some B-roll. So I may just end up doing that because I'm not quite sure like what all's on there, but it should be everything. So I'll have to go back and do some research on that as well too. But that is going to do it for this episode of the Keelhauled Podcast, Pirates. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys are looking forward to some of the content that's coming in with July in the future. And if you were at SoT Fest, I hope you had a good time. I hope you took care of yourself. I hope you're not too sore or upset or anything that could potentially ruin that moment for you. So Pirates, thank you. I love you. And I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.